What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are on day 25. I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. And actually, I'm going to dive into, you have another two takeaways, not a wise takeaway, but two takeaways. And I'm going to give you the first one right now. And so first one is takeaway number one, listen and accept valid criticism. Coming right out the gate swinging, all right? And this comes from Proverbs chapter 25, verse 12. And it says this, to one who listens, valid criticism is like a gold earring or other gold jewelry. I just love the picture and the illustration of that text. Like when you think about gold earring or jewelry, it has this ooh effect to it. What if we actually approached valid criticism like that? The same way we get excited about gold jewelry or, I love watches personally, but when I think of something like that excites me, like what if we actually internalized listening to valid criticism as the same way? Like this jewelry that makes us go, ooh, like it makes us feel good, right? Because when we have that mindset, now we start seeking it out. Look at 29 verse 1. I know we're not at Proverbs 29, just sometimes I try to stick to the themes, all right? Just roll with me. So Proverbs 29 verse 1 says this, whoever stubbornly refuses to accept criticism will suddenly be destroyed beyond recovery. If we want to be a people of resilience and know how to manage the pressures of life well, we must be a people, guys, who knows how to listen and accept valid criticism. And this is actually easier to do than we think. If you're wanting to grow in something, all you got to do is ask a couple questions. And we've talked through this already before, but just as a reminder, when you are trying to process through, like, who do I want to ask or who do I want to invite into my world when it comes to me wanting to grow and be a healthier version of myself? You have to ask a couple questions and you have to find safe people. I'm going to go into what safe people means in a moment, but just as a reminder for these questions, again, we said this before, but reminder is you got to ask these two questions. What do you mean by that? And can you give me an example? Like when you want to go to somebody, you go, hey, can you help me improve on a certain area of my life? Where do you feel like there's a place where I could do better in, where I can grow when they start speaking? Remember, your only job is to ask, what do you mean by that? And can you give me an example? And an additional tip too is when your loved one starts speaking into you, whether it's family member, friend, co-worker, supervisor, whomever it is, guys, this is so important. Write it down. Write it down. Because some of you are thinking like, oh, Mark, I'm going to remember. No, you ain't. You're not going to remember this, okay? Like you are giving your mind way too much credit. Seriously, write it down. Go around asking about 3 or 4 different people like, hey, what's an area of growth that I could do better in? What's something that I do that maybe that bothers you or frustrates you? The more you find yourself getting defensive, this is why I said, follow it up with, what do you mean by that? And can you give me an example? And I said earlier to ask safe people. And here's safe people, because lots of times when we say safe people, we think of, maybe family members, church, or friends, all that, which they probably are there. At the same time, safe people, I'm going to define it for you. Ready? Safe people is this. Safe people are people who can hold space for you. They don't shame you. They can be present with you through your hard, and they simultaneously call you out so they can call you up to be greater and have greater things in the Lord. I'm going to say it again. Here's what safe people do. Safe people are people who can hold space for you. They don't shame you. They can be present with you through your heart, and they simultaneously call you out so they can call you up to greater things in the Lord. In other words, they're ladies, like your girlfriends will go like, yeah, girl, you right. Or fellas, yeah, bro, like you was right, man. Like you don't need to apologize. No. That's not what that is. They're people that will hold us accountable. They'll call us out and call us up to greater things, but they also hear us first. And they don't shame us for feeling certain things. So the reason why I define that is because lots of times when I say, hey, find a safe person, we think through, the initial individuals. And maybe when you think through the lens of what we just talked about, if that person doesn't know how to hold space for you, let me be even more specific. If they can't hold space for your emotions, they're quick to correct it, or they're quick to judge it, that's actually not a safe person. We all need a place to fall apart and just be like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. And guess what? It's not the end point. It's just the starting line. It's the diagnosis phase, essentially. So it's very important that we find safe people. If we want to be people that knows how to manage hard well and be resilient, it is predicated off our ability and willingness to listen and accept valid criticism. And our ability to listen and accept valid criticism is tied to how many safe people we have in our lives. And this leads to my second takeaway. The second one is self-control. I know that's been a huge one that we've been talking through the entire book of Proverbs. We've probably used it at least 2 or 3 times at this point. But remember what I said earlier. Repetition is key when it comes to God trying to teach us something and get our attention. So the second takeaway is self-control. Look at what Proverbs 25, verse 28 has to say. It says this. It says, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Let me tell you something that really grinds my gears, like this really bothers me, is when you're trying to share something with someone and they go, well, that's just the way I am. And they go, I just like to tell like it is. Or this is the way that God made me. You've told me that you lack the ability then to control certain things about you. So if you're super opinionated, you feel like that gives you license to just pop off at the mouth and just say whatever you want, however you want, whenever you want. And if you're more naturally reserved, like myself, then you can also think it's okay to not speak up at all. When someone who needs it most needs to be cared for and spoken up for, and we can use our personality or temperament as the reason as to do something or to not do something. But really at the end of the day, you know what that really is? Lack of self-control. And you know what I call someone who lacks self-control? Lazy. Like, that's just laziness. If we're not willing to speak up when we need to, but also hold our tongue when we need to, that's lack of self-control. If you don't know how to control your mouth because you just feel the need to say something every time someone speaks, that's not wisdom. And equally on the other side, if you're the one that always remains quiet when an injustice is being done, remember we talked about with justice and righteousness, right? Because you want to be liked or you don't want to rock the boat, that's actually being selfish. And it's also unwise. Resiliency is about knowing how to speak when necessary, as well as when to be quiet. Resiliency is to grow past your personal preference and what you like to do so that you can speak truth and represent truth appropriately into an individual or a certain situation. So most people know this about me. I love personality tests. Like, it's really one of my favorite things, whether it's DISC, whether it's Myers-Briggs, whether it's Enneagram, whatever it is. I absolutely love them. Part of the problem is once we learn what we are, we've taken it on as a form of our identity instead of using it as information to help us unpack why we are the way we are and where that mindset comes from. As you've heard from me say before, like those things, they're just simply a diagnosis. I remember I was talking with one person because they don't like personality tests, like, well, puts me in a box and, puts a title on me. Like, I just don't like that. And something I learned from, his name is Ian Morgan-Cron. I like the statement he said. He goes, what if I were to tell you you're already in a box and the personality assessment just helps you describe which one you're in so you can get out of it? And that is the point. It's to take ownership and recognition to our personality so we can change something to do a new thing. But guess what that requires? Self-control. And self-control is what you'll need to manage hard times in life. Part of what keeps us in a season of suffering longer than intended is our inability to implement self-control in our lives. Like, why in the world would God want to deliver you through a season when you can't implement self-control? God may have you in a season where he's looking at you to speak up more, or maybe you've been quiet and silent for far too long, and he's looking at you going, something could shift in your life right now if you just spoke truth to that situation or that person. Remember that other point about your strength being too small so that he's building it, right? For others, God may be looking at you and saying, my daughter, my son, I really need you to learn the art of taming your tongue because you've used the mouth that I've given you to start fires when you should be putting them out. And sometimes the quickest way to put out a fire is to not start one in the first place. And you do that by not speaking. And this sounds like I'm giving conflicting information because to one, God is saying speak up. To the other, God is saying speak less. You know what's going to help you decide which one to use? Wisdom. If you guys, listen, we're on day 25 right now. How many of you guys know at this point, it's not a black and white answer. We have to know when to do both. There's a time to speak. There's a time to remain silent. Either way, it requires self-control. If you want to be a man or woman of God that manages hard or can increase your resiliency in life, you must become a person of self-control. So again, Number one, listen and accept bad criticism. Number two, self-control. And we're going to start wrapping up our time together. I'm going to go to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 5 through 12. Okay, so once again, I'm coming out of the book of Proverbs, and I'm in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 5 through 12. This is very important. It made me think about this verse when I was putting this one together. Verse 5, and have you forgotten the encouraging words God spoke to you as his children? He said, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline. And I know we read this before. Stay with me. Don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child. As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Who ever heard of a child who was never disciplined by its father? Verse 8, if God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you were illegitimate and are not really his children at all. We already talked about this. Verse 9, since we respected our earthly fathers who disciplined us, shouldn't we submit even more to the discipline of the Father of our spirits and live forever? And here's where I want to kind of hone in on and wrap up our time together. Verse 10, for our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best they knew how, but God's discipline is always good for us so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. Afterwards, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. And look at verse 12. I love this so much. Verse 12 says, so take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. And this leads to our wise takeaway. Our wise takeaway is that wise people acknowledge their fatigue. There's actually two types of discipline, guys. There's a corrective discipline and there's a refining discipline. Corrective discipline is exactly what that is. It's hey, you're doing X, Y, Z, I need you to stop. Like, if you're doing the wrong thing, knock it off. So I'm going to correct you. And then there's a refining discipline. Refining discipline is sometimes you're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes it's, hey, you're already doing a good job, but it's, I want you to tighten up in these areas. I think of like athletes, right? Whether it's basketball or football, a good coach is going to call out the player and go like, knock it off, bro. Like, stop arguing with the refs and get back on defense, right? And then there's other times like, man, you're killing it. You're doing a great job. But have you ever thought about doing this? I think it'll make your shot better. Or hey, next time, dribble on this side instead of that side because you might get a better path or better opening, right? There's a corrective discipline. There's a refining discipline. And the reality is we need a little bit of both. But regardless if it's corrective or refining, it's painful because we want to just, of course, be praised. It's human nature to want to be praised. But the thing that I really love, going back to verse 12, when it says, take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. The author of Hebrews is saying, you can be tired, guys. It's okay to be tired. Like when you think about when you do weights and you lift up, you're doing curls for a while, or even if you go to a gun range, if you've ever done that before. After a few rounds of shooting some ammo down range, you got to what? Put the weapon down. You got to shake it out. Why? Because your hands are tired. Your body is tired. Same thing when you're lifting weights. At some point, you're tired. Going back to that language of muscle failure, you have to put the weight down, shake it out, and then pick it back up. You're allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be fatigued. That's okay. That's why the author says, hey, pick it up with your tired hands. It's just don't stop. But know when you are tired. Know when you need to take a break. So when you think about the two things that God has really spoken to you, like take a step back and just go, all right, Lord, where do I need to let go of something temporarily so I can pick it back up? It's okay to be tired. It is okay to be fatigued. In fact, wise people know that. Wise people know when they need to take a break. Wise people know when they need to get out of the game for a little bit, rest, so they can get back into it. Wise people acknowledge their fatigue. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of intelligence. Know when to take a step back so you can get back in the game and continue to stay doing the thing that the Lord has called you to do. Amen? Catch you guys tomorrow on the next one. See ya. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you guys have been enjoying this challenge. I want to hear from you. Post in the comments below and let me know what your greatest takeaway is. And please do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe because it really helps the channel get noticed. Love you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.